Okay. Hi. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first inaugural event of its type, as we know, the first annual World Learning Lab Symposium 2023. We started this initiative fairly recently, but it's grown out of love and effort, mostly in a collaboration between us here. We're broadcasting live from Kyoto University of Foreign Studies, with our partners that are visiting mostly from the University of the Philippines Open University. It is an initiative that's close to our hearts. We are researchers, educators, designers, developers, looking to use technology in new ways to support student learning. And this effort grew out of several different motivations, mostly because during the pandemic, we had a different paradigm shift in how we were using our technology to support student learning, from the emergency remote teaching phenomenon that we saw. And as we start to move back into campus teaching, high flex, hybrid, and all these other models that we start to move into, the spaces that we teach in, both physical, virtual, online, are also starting to blend together in various ways. And the group that we've assembled for you today are doing a lot of interesting things around immersive learning, which is the use of augmented and virtual reality in learning contexts, and developing learning spaces in different contexts. So we have a variety of presentations today around the development of materials using immersive technology, creating and developing physical spaces for this new era of education, which include laboratory spaces. Earlier today, our group got together and started doing some experiments around a lot of the initiatives here at the Kyoto University of Foreign Studies at our kind of redesigned lab space called MICO, where we are experimenting and using virtual and augmented reality in various different contexts. So I invite everyone to watching this live or perhaps recorded in the future to go to worldlearninglabs.com to see some of the research initiatives that you're going to see in this video. There are also other recorded videos and other live streams that are going to be going along with this two-day symposium. And we hope, we can't promise, but we hope this is going to be an ongoing series of events, because there is a great motivation in a lot of us here today to collaborate and get synergy from the energy that we're putting into these initiatives, especially these learning spaces that are both online and physical, that gives us the chance to mix what we're doing in different physical places all around Asia and the world. So there's a lot of opportunity, we believe, that goes along with our initiatives. I've started putting this together. I should mention that I, Eric Hawkinson, I'm a professor here at Kyoto University of Foreign Studies, but I put this together with great effort with my colleague, Robert Figueroa, who is a professor at the University of the Philippines Open University. So thanks very much for your effort, Bobby. We'll be seeing his presentation a little bit later. We have 7 presentations lined up for you, and we will try our best to be following along on the live stream to answer your questions, perhaps if you're watching this live, but we also come and visit from time to time with the comments as well. There are papers, published papers, hopefully to be going along with these presentations to be published at a later date, information as well on our website about that. So thank you for joining us. Thanks for everybody in the audience with us here today. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome up our group of presenters for the first annual, I'm very excited, World Learning Lab Symposium first session. Welcome, everyone.
Hello. Yeah, all right. Am I coming in real clear? Okay. All right. Shall I start? Okay. Whatever's better. Hi, everyone. I'm going to start a timer so that I don't go over time, to be respectful of everyone's time. My name is Diego Maranan. I'm an associate professor at the University of the Philippines Open University. I'm the dean of the Faculty of Information and Communication Studies there. And I wanted to talk about, actually, originally I was going to talk just about the Bukas Lab, which is a learning laboratory of sorts that we have at my university. But after today's really interesting workshop, I wanted to talk a little bit about how I got to building this lab that I did. And later on, I will be asking everyone to participate in a short survey. So I'm just putting this QR code and this URL down here, which we'll be referring to later. And hopefully I don't go over time. I will flash this out again, so I will move on. So it was interesting, after going through the workshops today, I remembered that I had been doing work in hybrid reality spaces for quite some time now. So this is the lab that I was working in back in 2002. And back then, what we were doing was projecting this board game onto a tabletop, and you have these physical pieces that you would move, and based on where the pieces were on the board, the gameplay would change here, because back then we were thinking about how, you know, we wanted to leverage the strengths of face-to-face gameplay. So there's lots of nonverbal cues that you can work with, all this fun things are kind of grouping together physically, but also the ability of digital spaces to capture complex states. And we were using Palm Pilots back then because that was the cool technology back then. And so this was back in 2002. And I haven't been doing a lot of work in gameplay since then, but this is still one of well, I wasn't the lead author here, but this is still the paper that I co-wrote that still gets most cited. But my background is really in computer science and dance and contemporary dance. And as a dancer, one of the things that I came to appreciate was learning about my own body, body awareness, and this field of study called somatics, which is the study of your own body from within, a phenomenological view of one's own physicality. I trained in something called the Feldenkrais method for quite a while, and it's a very slow, very gentle movement practice that is about trying to build awareness of your own body. And I found this such a beautiful, fantastic, useful method. I also came across the works of, here is Sally Dean. She is a costumer, and she built these amazing costumes. She called them somatic costumes, and this is me right here. And the idea is that these costumes would create a totally different perception of your own body. So this is a bunch of balloons that's been stuffed into a nylon stocking, and then you wear these bicycle inner tubes around under your groin and over your shoulders. And when I was playing with these costumes, I felt like I was an animal. I felt like I was a salamander, and this little bouncy tail over here really felt like a tail. And these were all dancers kind of playing around with these costumes. And when you take off these costumes, after 30 minutes of playing with them, I still felt like I was in a different body. I didn't feel quite human. And I was thinking to myself, is it possible to create a technology, a tool, a device that can allow more people to experience this kind of experiences. And so this was my PhD. I developed this wearable technology made out of 14 motors that you wear on your back, and then you program using this. So it's kind of like vibro-tactile music for your skin. And borrowing from the fields of psychology, I created a series of workshops where I got people to try them on. I didn't tell them what it was about, and it looks like the device did what I wanted it to do, which was to make people more aware of those parts of their body that was being vibrated by applying increasingly complex, sophisticated patterns of vibration. I don't have time to really go into what these drawings mean, other than to show you how people perceive their body before wearing this device, and then what happens when only one side of their body got vibrated. And you see this across all of the different drawings, that people became more aware of their body when we play these pleasurable, vibrating motor patterns on their body. We then adapted these kinds of technologies in other ways. So here we are. This was a 3-day hackathon I did in Amsterdam. And so I was working with composer, a sculptor, speculative designer, a computational neuroscientist, and a fashion designer, and a science communicator. And what we did was we took this vibrating technology that I had done for my PhD, we put it in the silicone cast, and then we attached it to a machine learning model that would read your brain waves. So this model here is wearing a portable EEG sensor, and the idea is that you could sense what emotional state, affective state the user is in, and then if you wanted to calm them or make them more excited, you would apply different kinds of sounds or vibration. So she's wearing some headphones here, and the idea is that, oh, are you not calm enough? Let's try a different combination of patterns or a different combination of sounds. And so we put this very quickly together in a span of 2 or 3 days. And then we kind of continued this work for a little bit. So with the work that I was doing before, we were using these technologies to make people more aware of their bodies by so often we feel like our body parts are not quite connected. There's my head, there's my neck, but it's not like one big entire thing. And the kinds of technologies that we were developing was meant to create this more unified sensation of the body. But it turned out that it can also do weird things, like make you feel like you had arms that were really, really long. And so we built a different immersive environment. This time, we took that same idea of vibrating your body, but it was your entire body. So underneath this model are 200 vibrating motors over there that you can see that. And then you're surrounded in this wall of sound, and it feels like you're in this science fiction cocoon of that, like it was like you were being transformed, and that was the idea. And at the end, we asked people to do the same thing, which was as the other experiments, which is to show us how they perceive their bodies before and after. And so we would take this neutral image and then ask them to sculpt it, kind of using their fingers. And so here's some before and after images. So before getting into the capsule, we called it the REME capsule. REME standing for reimagine myself, or I can't remember what the other, but it's like reimagining the body. So before they felt like this, like they felt a bit tilted towards the right, and then afterwards they came out feeling a bit more balanced. This one, I have no idea what was going on, but it was very interesting. Before they felt like that enormous legs, and now they felt like their legs were nothing. I mean, it wasn't very predictable what would happen, but this idea of using immersive non-visual, which is the other interesting thing, immersive non-visual sensory technologies to reshape bodily self-image. This is what we were after. And interestingly, I think this has some application for sensory motor rehabilitation for health purposes. And so this is a prototype that one of my undergraduate students had built using lights to cue someone when they should be feeling a vibration. So if you had a stroke and you've lost some sensation, the idea is that maybe a glove like this can help with that. And I haven't continue this line of research, but I would like to. So that's really just about some recent work or the history of work that I've done that's led up to now. And this is where I teach now. This is the University of the Philippines Open University. This is our campus. It's beautiful. And all of our courses at the Open University are virtual. And our students are from all over the world, mostly from Asia, but quite a lot as well from North America, Europe. We have one student in South Africa, apparently. That's good to know. So it's all distributed. So the question is, why would I or anyone at the university build a physical learning lab? Because everything that you've seen, everything that I've told you about my work, I needed to have a physical lab to do that in. So we do have learning labs at the university. And at this point, this is when I'd like you to take out your phones or type this URL into your laptops. And I'm going to see whether this works. Maybe you won't. I wonder if I can, oh, yeah, it works. All right, so these two spaces are actual spaces that exist at our university. And so I'm curious, if you were to go somewhere to study, which space would you pick? I'll wait a few more seconds, I'll just talk over this. So yeah, these are both spaces. I won't tell you which one is which. Okay, so I'm going to just advance the poll to the next one now, to the next question. So I'm curious, I'm genuinely curious. If you were going to go to work in space B instead of space A, when might you do it? I'll wait like maybe 5 seconds or, so this space, there's fluorescent lighting, and then there are these desks, and there are these people there to work alone when you really need to focus, when you need to enter a non-interactive seminar. Okay, I'm going to move this along just in the interest of time. And when might you choose to go work in space A instead? So there's lots of wooden detailing, and there's these weird kind of, I don't know what these are, like capsules with some plants. When you want to do something creative, to focus and spend a long time there, great. Okay, so I'm just going to move this along and go back to my presentation. Right, so this was the existing learning space that we had at our university. It had been around for 15 years, 20 years, something along those lines. And these kind of reflected the way we thought a learning laboratory would look, should function. So it was still important, we found out, for students who were virtually participating at the university to still have a physical place to come together. But then about 12 years ago, we invited this artist, his name is Angelo Vermeulen, to do a 6-month-long project with us to build a new media art installation, which was this. So working with our students, we totally dropped the pure online-only mode, and we built this sculpture together. So what you see here is a 10-foot high case made out of recycled coconut lumber inside our old computers that have been made to run again, and some of them are being cooled using living algae. So this algae is being pumped into the computers in order to cool them. The algae becomes too hot, so we cool the algae using fish tanks that are inside. I'm 13 minutes in, so I'm going to stop this. And so all of this is actually also serving as a kind of greenhouse for the plants that are growing inside. And so we've been doing this kind of work of reimagining what technology, biology might look like in many places around the world. And then the pandemic hit. And when the pandemic hit, everyone went online at the university. So we've always been teaching online at the Open University, but suddenly even the teachers had to function completely online. And then we realized humans are made out of flesh and bone, and we're materials, and we need physical spaces to work in. And so over the course of the next 3 months, over the course of the year during the pandemic, I started to prepare building a space where students and faculty could get together and co-create in the way that we had co-created that installation that we had done before. And so this is one of our existing laboratories. And then over time, I transformed it into the Bukas Lab. So Bukas in Filipino stands for both tomorrow and open. And so the idea is this open lab where students can come in along with faculty, experiment and prototype. And even though we are a completely virtual university, we've started offering some courses, at least one course, that tries to make use of this lab. So I'm going to close by talking about one example activity that we've done in this lab. This is the Wearable Futures Hackathon. And over the course of 12 weeks, what we did was get students to learn about futures thinking, forecasting, speculative design, and wearable technology design. And so for the first time in a long time, we've had students physically come into our physical spaces and learn in this kind of hybrid manner. So I think we met in total of 4 times over the course of 12 weeks. And you can see the kinds of topics that we covered. We talked a little about futures thinking, deep time thinking, speculative design. And then students worked on a combination of theoretical work and then practical work. So here they learned how to program with a microbit, which is a microcomputer. And at the end of the 12 weeks, the students came up with some of the most interesting projects. Some of them I totally didn't expect. So one student came up with a suit that would generate electricity as you walked. And the idea is that why do we waste all of our energy working at the gym and then not capturing that energy? And he imagines that 50 years into the future, this is what all gyms are going to be. No energy is wasted. This student, I was very concerned about how farmers can incorporate technology into their work. So this is a glove that in the future can sense pH and soil moisture even as you're tilling the ground. And what I love about this project is how really close to the body and how she really thought about how it might be possible to engage different kinds of people in wearable tech. This is probably one of the most interesting ones produced by a group. This is a set of underwear and a belt that if it's tugged forcefully and without consent, it sends an alarm. And it alarms other people in the area. It sends an emergency message to your contacts. So it's basically an anti-rape, anti-sexual harassment device. And so what's common? This one is really interesting too. This is a watch and also something that's imprinted into your skin that tells everyone what your carbon footprint is. And so that your carbon footprint becomes a measure of your social acceptability. So I think what was interesting and unpredictable for what I didn't quite expect was how the students were so passionately, obviously political in the way they thought about the future and technology. And so, moving forward with the Bukas Lab, this is what I'd like to explore a bit more, understand a bit more, the intersection of politics, social change, and technology, especially in the context of the Global South. Thanks very much.
Hello, everyone. Once again, I'm Roberto Figueroa, an assistant professor of the University of the Philippines Open University. And as mentioned by our host, I'll be quickly talking about the Immersive Learning Laboratory and the Immersive Open Pedagogies Initiative in the Philippines, which leads to a description of a virtual exhibit that we had a few months ago. Okay. So as we shared a while ago in our workshop, it was the pandemic that made policymakers and decision makers look into immersive technologies like VR and AR as next generation tools that we should consider in remote learning contexts. And UPOU had been doing these projects even before the pandemic. So the leadership proposed a more programmatic approach so that we can concentrate our efforts, consolidate our efforts, and increase our impact. And this led to the strategic move to propose a center, actually a center for immersive open pedagogies at the University of the Philippines Open University. But after many pulls and pushes at several levels of our institution, we arrived at an immersive open pedagogies research program for now, which we envision to be evolved into a center in the future. So let me give a brief introduction to the term immersive open pedagogies. It's a combination of three important concepts or terms. First is immersive technologies, which refer to the spectrum of technologies. We all know about this, like virtual reality, augmented reality, and cross reality that allow users to navigate between the physical world and other spaces created by digital technologies. And then the second concept is immersive learning, which is the application of these immersive technologies in teaching and learning contexts. And the third, I think, is very unique and very special to us in our context in the Open University, open pedagogy, which aims to democratize education through open principles like open educational resources, increasing access, flexible education, and constructivist learning, which makes students participants in the creation of the learning materials. From these terms, immersive open pedagogies are therefore the use of OER, or open educational resources, designed and developed using immersive technologies, or may be experienced by learners in immersive environments while promoting co-creation of these immersive resources among them. And together with a program, the physical space, which is the Immersive Learning Laboratory, we still don't have a really fancy name for it, was also conceptualized. It's currently in the design stage. I think we presented the design with Eric before, because the building that is supposed to house it is still under construction. However, we're already preparing for it with the projects that we're doing. This is the second floor, as you can see. That's the second floor of the building. The red, green, and purple shaded rooms are actually the interconnected spaces that were allotted to consist the Immersive Learning Lab. Professor Hawkinson helped us with ideating the design of these spaces. Thank you. And since we are a distance learning institution, we also wanted to turn it into a distributed learning laboratory. We have several learning spaces spread across the country, and hopefully we can connect it to other learning spaces abroad. And that, I feel, was also one of the reasons why I'm very passionate about the World Learning Labs initiative. So it led us to the question, what if similar labs join together and form an association? It may be similar to the Open Athens model or the Anytime Fitness model, where members or students from these member institutions would be able to access these facilities wherever they are in the world, which would also be actually beneficial to the labs themselves, the spaces. Why? Because they can also experience different expertise that these students are bringing into their labs and also facilitate more collaboration among them. And that's an idea that we've been playing around with when conceptualizing World Learning Labs. And hopefully, the partnership between UPOU and Kyoto University of Foreign Studies would serve as a catalyst to this. So as I've said, we're still in the piloting stages. So we're just trying to form teams and do research and creative projects together around this field. The next part of this presentation then is about one of these projects, which is a virtual exhibit for a conference in the metaverse. This is the team that we formed to do this project. Of course, we got help from all of our departments and units. This is Josh Zerica Esguerra, Lexter Mangubat, and Professor Sally Gutierrez, the members of the team of Encodel Metaverse. So as you know, restrictions due to the pandemic did not allow us to organize in-person conferences for several years. So our university had to explore virtual platforms for conducting events and exhibits. 2 years ago, they tried vFairs. It's a commercial platform which advertised itself as an all-in-one events platform. Have you tried vFairs before? It's very expensive. So, so after that, we decided to explore, more cost-effective alternatives. And we also found out that that platform was not as immersive as we would like it to be. There was no way for participants to really move around. They just clicked, around the areas. So it's more static. And last year, we decided to try Frame VR. I'm pretty sure that many of us have already tried this, and we've actually used this in one of our meetings in JOLT, right? Okay, almost done. Frame VR is a web-based platform for hosting immersive collaboration spaces, and it's a beta product from Virbela. It has been used by numerous institutions such as Microsoft, University of Massachusetts, and MIT Media Lab, among others. Actually, it has a freemium model, right? You have the free version and some paid versions. So we actually used the free one. The base exhibit hall was provided by Frame VR. The following assets were added: PDFs from the university's international journal. So we also have our own journal. Video webinars from the Multimedia Center, images and links to 360-degree tours created by the IOP, and video projects of our students. We actually solicited contributions from students, faculty members, research units, and other contributors at the university, and formed them, curated them into digital elements of the virtual museum or exhibit. This is how we added some of the elements to the virtual space. It's very easy. And then I asked some volunteers to also edit some of them, also add some more elements to make them more beautiful. We even invited an artist, a 3D model artist, to contribute his own 3D artwork and even present it to our students. So just so that you have an overview of the whole tour, let me just show you a short video of the exhibit. So that's our journal. These are products from our Multimedia Center. All of them are open educational resources, so you're free to download them and reuse them. These are our virtual tours using A-Frame. And these are the 10-second videos of our students. There were also poster entries, even artworks that were contributed by students and even our friend researchers. And that is our voting section. So we asked students for their feedback, participants for their feedback, just to know how we can improve. And this is just a rough analysis of the results. We didn't really do any hard statistics. Oops. ended. Okay, so here, as you can see, we had like 4 liquor type items, and from the median and the mean of, you know, the entertaining scale, the boring scale, the interesting scale, you can see that most of them were really interested. You know, 5 was the maximum, and really not bored, right? And then they also experienced the sense of being there, which is present, which was 8 out of 10. And from the qualitative interviews and open-ended questions, we found 3 themes. Most of them found that, you know, the exhibit was very engaging, and for them it was really new, it was novel. So maybe that was related. But a lot of them also reported the lag that they experienced from the platform. It seemed that we overloaded the space with too many elements. So from there, we actually regrouped and decided to redesign it into smaller spaces that are interconnected. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone. So my name is Shari and I also teach at University of the Philippines Open University. And I'm also actually a product of itself. I was a undergraduate student there. I learned Bachelor of Arts in Multimedia Studies. So today I'll be talking about this passion project of mine, which was also a version of my undergraduate thesis, which is about interpretations of mental illnesses. So today I'll be focusing on more on behind the scenes, the background of the project and its variations, as well as what might come next. Okay, so the title is Inconvenient Silence. Let me just, there's a bit of a lag. Okay. Whoops. Okay, so the title is Inconvenient Silence. You can also access it through this QR code as well as the URL. So it's framevr.io/trialx. So it took on different forms. The first is actually just an online exhibit on a plain website, and then that was it. And that was my undergraduate thesis, because I also didn't know about VR back then. And then after that, I applied for a grant at the National Commission for Culture and the Arts in the Philippines, and then I received grant so that I could turn it into an actual physical exhibit. And then from there, it went to different universities, and the last was also a part of the UP system, which was University of the Philippines, Las Bañas. So I'm continuously invited to give talks about this passion project of mine, and it actually became quite difficult to just show pictures. And I want the people to also be immersed in the exhibit and to actually experience it. And so that is why, since Bobby introduced me to Frame VR, I created the digital twin of it. Okay, next. So a bit about the project. The creative process started when I began my extensive research. So the first step was to gain knowledge about the history, symptoms, the treatment, and the management of the different mental illnesses. Aside from these secondary sources, primary sources were also used. So I was able to interview some of the people who actually experience different mental illnesses. And then for the ones that I cannot interview persons or people experiencing those, I was able to interview nurses who got stationed at different psych wards. So for example, we have here schizophrenia. Schizophrenics cannot distinguish fantasy from reality, so even if I was able to talk to them, it really wouldn't make much sense. So I have this nurse friend, and she was the one who talked to me about what schizophrenics feel, what they do, and then from there I was able to interpret it that way. And then next is, okay, so the list contained 14 illnesses ranging from phobias, anxiety disorders, and more. I narrowed it down by choosing the illnesses that are commonly misunderstood or mistaken for another, one or two illness from different categories, and by considering if each illness can be photographed or presented in a way that will still be true to its definitions and experiences of the people. I also have this disclaimer that not every illness is going to be same for the people who experience it. It will differentiate by people and their experience and their backgrounds and a lot of factors, which is why I kept my interpretations as close as possible to the definitions and the experiences of the people that I was able to talk to. Okay, next is, moving on. So the stories about their day-to-day lives, their great days, their worst moments, all of those have influenced me in different ways to create scenarios and come up with concepts. Documentaries and extensive research also greatly affected how I interpreted the different mental illnesses. So, okay, next. The virtual exhibit takes visitors on a journey through the complexities of the mind and the challenges faced by those living with mental illnesses. Visitors are invited to share their own struggles with mental health, including the challenges and stigma they have faced in seeking help and support. This digital twin of the physical exhibit is fairly new, and I have introduced it to just a few people, but we'll get to that later. And this part right here, the right part, is actually the results from the physical exhibits that I have done. And in all of its exhibit runs, these three themes keep on popping up, which is about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So, for life, under this theme are entries about life in general, and all of the entries, or most of them, appreciated life, and some entries were about the visitors' mundane thoughts, even those were there, and what is going on in their lives. So there are entries like that. And then for liberty, excuse me. Okay, for liberty, it's about private information responses. There were responses about their own struggles and political responses as well. And then the pursuit of happiness is they want to be free from something that's keeping them from being free, so there. And then again, this is the extension of the physical exhibit, and they were encouraged to really share their inconvenient silences. I'm still gathering responses from the virtual version of it, and we can actually see it. I'll show it to you in a bit, but I have received maybe 15 responses. And what I want to see is what are the results that are gonna come from this? Because during the physical runs, it really showed what kind of community is present in that university, what are the problems that exist with regards to mental health in that university, and all sorts of stuff. But since it's gonna go, I think, virtual and maybe globally, what are the issues that might arise from this? Okay, so this is actually my second to the last slide. I'm doing this because I want to promote understanding and compassion. Inconvenient Silence aims to break down the stigma and promote mental wellness for all. So now I want to know what kind of experience are we gonna get from this? Is it going to evoke emotions just as much as a physical exhibit can do? Is it going to get responses or spark conversations just like the ones that were in the physical space? So there. And to end, I would like to remind everyone to always be kind, and thank you very much.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Dabrowski. I'm a PhD student currently at the University, or Temple University, Japan campus in Tokyo. And I'm currently researching what applications augmented reality might have in vocabulary learning. What I want you to do first is to think about a salient memory that you have. So it's likely that this memory is linked to a place, and people in that place, and things in that place, and words that were spoken in that place. As I began to learn Japanese as a second language, I began to notice that the words that I was learning and the grammar that I was learning were indexed to physical locations. And so that's really what's driving my interest in augmented reality. So I'm going to present a pilot study that I conducted, which is leading towards my PhD dissertation, tablet-based augmented reality in the study of concrete nouns. So first off, this might be a bit redundant for everyone here, but for anyone on the internet, what is AR, or augmented reality? Generally, it's a technology that overlays digital information onto a user's experience of reality. And it could be through haptic feedback, it could be through visual stimuli, and many other possible sources. These are just a few examples of AR. It could come in the form of visual labels or translations or images, directions. Could be auditorial, could be other, like haptic feedback, for example, from Diego's presentation. So is it different from VR? AR and VR both exist on the virtuality, or the reality-virtuality continuum, and this is a scale that spans from describing the real environment all the way to a completely virtual environment. So to give some examples, these are real-world objects. Well, of course, this is an image of real-world objects. This is tablet-based augmented reality, overlaying virtual objects onto reality, and then a completely virtual environment. So I'm interested in this use of augmented reality. There are many possibilities of AR in pedagogy. It allows for immersive spaces, and it can be used for constructivist learning, situated learning, game-based learning, and inquiry-based learning. there's a lot here, so of course I'm not going to cover every single piece here, but in general, right now in vocabulary study, with augmented reality as applied to vocabulary study, there are very few studies. A couple of themes have emerged, augmented reality versus traditional tried and true methods. Another area of interesting inquiry is the visual spatial bootstrapping effect, which has been noted. Basically, we make use of our visual environment and we index that environment to help us recall memory. And some of those memories can be lexical in nature. And it also adds to student motivation and can encourage states of flow. So when I was deciding what to use for my project, I was presented with maybe I should use AR on a physical headset like this, or perhaps I should use mobile AR. So the advantages of mobile AR is that, except for my parents, who still live in the Stone Age, most everyone owns a smartphone or a tablet that's capable of running AR. And it can be used outside of laboratories, and any positive results could influence the practical use of AR in pedagogy. Limitations of these head-mounted systems. They're expensive, they can only be used in a limited environment, and they might be difficult, any positive results might be difficult to extend to practical pedagogy. So here are my research questions. I was interested in this pilot study about how do tablet-based AR technology modes compare with paper-based word cards, which I'll call WC, in terms of their ability to help the learner recall the meaning of the concrete nouns. And then when concrete nouns are studied via AR, are there differences as to whether those lexical items are anchored to a contextually relevant scene arranged for utility, AR2, or not, AR1? This will become more clear in a second. So in simple terms, my research questions were this. Is there a difference between word cards and augmented reality in deliberate vocab study? And then is there a difference between these two theorized AR study methods? So my methodology overview, I used a 3x3 counterbalanced Latin square design. I'll show you an example, I'll show you a diagram of that in a second. I tested 3 modes of treatment: word cards, context-independent augmented reality scenes, which are basically items arranged randomly on a table, and then context-dependent context-dependent augmented reality scenes, which are scenes that kind of invoke utility, items that are set up as you would expect them to be set up. So for this, I used 3 different sets of thematic words: a desk set, a kitchen set, and a music set. The sets were all constrained thematically, and 5-letter non-words were generated with a non-word database to test these words. The participants, there were 39 of them. They're all adult learners, about half and half female and male. Most were PhD students. Some were professors or language teachers, undergraduate psychology majors. Probably you can see that I roped in all of my friends to be my participants. There were a couple of different L1s, which is one of the reasons why I chose non-words. The design was a pre-test, treatment, post-test, and then delayed post-test design. Here are the words briefly. You can see that they are non-words. This is the Latin square design. So essentially, if you were assigned to Group A, you would study the desk words with word cards, and then the kitchen words in AR1, and then the AR2, you would study with music, the music set. And the power of this type of design is that if you control the attributes of the words, then you can test the results of the participants against each other. This is what the word cards looked like. Here is the application that I used, Ario, on a 2018 iPad. To give you an idea, this is the type of study that the participants engaged in. So they stood in a space, a real space, and they viewed real objects with a tablet, and pinned to each of those objects was an augmented reality label. Here's AR1 set 1, the desk set. You can see that they're kind of arranged, the items are arranged more or less in the style of an inventory being taken. The kitchen set, the music set. Now here's AR2. The items are arranged differently on the table. The kitchen set makes use of an actual kitchenette area. And the music set is arranged much more in a utilitarian way. So here's the Latin square again. The assessment formats that I used. All assessments were conducted with Google Forms. The pretest format included 10 yes-no items. The post format included 15 yes-no items with 5 distractors and 10 meaning recall items. And then the delayed post tests were exactly the same except randomized to prevent any sort of learning effect or testing effect. To give you an idea, this is what the yes-no questions look like, and this is what the meaning recall questions look like. So, of course, we would probably all recognize that the yes-no questions are much easier to answer with confidence than a meaning recall question, where you are given the form that you studied and are required to regurgitate the meaning of it. To give you a quick little visual, when these items were subjected to Roche analyses, you can see the groupings. These are MR, meaning recall items. These are yes-no items. This represents something that's more difficult of an item in hierarchy. These were much more simple. And this was recognized by the Roche model for all 3 of the sets. So my procedure basically was to get consent. I gave a pretest. There was 10 minutes of focused study with assigned treatment mode that they were assigned to based on the Latin square design. I distracted them with 1 minute of verbal distraction, and then I gave them the immediate post-test. There was 1 week of no study, and then I conducted the delayed post-tests exactly 1 week later, and they were given in the same order as their assigned set order. Later, I subjected all of the data to generalized linear mixed effects models, and I was able to find that there was a slight but significant effect favoring the augmented reality over the word card treatment in both of the types of test question data. To give you kind of another visual, set 1, set 2, set 3. Set 2, something of an anomaly. The AR1, for whatever reason, did not seem to benefit participants as well as it did in the other 2 sets. I'm not sure why that is. It's written into the limitations. And then I used post hoc comparisons to compare AR1 versus AR2. There was no significant p-value, so I can't say with confidence that there was much difference between these 2 modes of study. So revisiting my research questions. Is there a difference between word cards and AR? Tentatively, I can say yes, based on these data. Is there a difference between AR1 and AR2? No, there doesn't seem to be. So that's kind of a curious finding because the arrangement didn't appear to affect how well the participants leveraged that information. So some future directions that I'm taking this. Right now, my PhD is focused on kind of a replication of this, where again, I'm examining augmented reality versus word cards. I've cut AR1 and AR2 from my design, which makes it a much simpler design. I'm also examining concrete nouns versus verbs. There's some research that tells us that concrete nouns are more easily learned and leveraged as compared to verbs. So one of my questions is, do differences exist in these retentions, or the retention of this variation of these parts of speech? And then do any patterns hold for both AR and for word card treatments? And if not, that will be quite interesting to find. And then finally, I'm examining flow state markers. Again, does augmented reality help participants enter into a state of flow or a state of engagement faster or more readily than word cards do? And I think that this type of method might be applicable to grammar and larger chunks of lexical information. And I'm curious about using augmented reality in embodied cognition research in the future as well. So if it's possible, I would like to collaborate with any and all of you. My email address is here. This is a QR code to my email address. So thank you very much for listening to my presentation, and I'm looking forward to meeting all of you. Take care.
Is it evening already? Okay. Good evening, everyone. Nice to meet you. Let me introduce myself. My name is Joanne Serrano, the second author. I'm a professor and currently the Dean of the Faculty of Management and Development Studies. So this is more of a exploratory and possibility that I'm presenting to you because we're very supportive of the initiative on CEOP, Rob. So we actually, last year, we actually did a series of workshops among my program chairs, and we tried to find out the use of immersive technology in our programs. So this is actually the result of that. Okay, so let me just go through this because my research assistant prepared it. So anyway, we know the background. There's really a need since there's a need for graduates who possess critical thinking and problem-solving skills, it's said that immersive environment will actually address some of this. It will bridge the gap somehow by bridging the reality as well as the augmented, the virtual reality. So according to Costello, immersive technologies were also observed to improve the forces of learning. So critical thinking, collaboration, creativity, and communication. And these aforementioned skills are deemed to be among the top skills employers look for when hiring. So this is actually a very recent study. After COVID, I think employers are now looking for this kind of skills. We have talked about it, the rationale why there's a increasing interest again when it comes to immersive environment. So I don't think I think Bobby has already introduced our university, but just to reintroduce. We are actually tasked, our university, to assist various higher education institutions in the country when it comes to open and distance e-learning. And I think going into immersive environment as a niche would actually be beneficial for us to somehow address or accomplish this particular mandate. And Bobby has already mentioned this. So let me just go through these slides. I'm posting this here because our staff and faculty members attended this particular workshop. I think that's the time when Eric went to the to our university, and yeah, and there was also an open talk which was participated again by Eric and Bobby. So. The Faculty of Management and Development Studies is one of the 3 Faculty of Studies of the UP Open University, and our courses is really very diverse. So it ranges from health to the environment, to management, and to the development fields. And we deal with policy, program, and development concerns related to environment and natural resources management, land valuation, research and development, nursing, international health, social work, and public management. And last year, in 2022, we had a project wherein we were exploring how to facilitate the integration of immersive learning into our broad range of programs. As you can see, our programs are really diverse. And we were hoping to collaborate with CIOP and other offices involved in developing such technology. So the objective of this particular project was to investigate how the immersive technologies will help supplement the teaching and learning among the FMDS graduate programs. So our faculty of study basically offers at the moment, because we recently had an approved undergraduate program. But at the moment, we offer all graduate programs. So we would like to identify their AR/VR needs, plans, and initiatives. So as I was telling you earlier, last year, we had a series of workshops. So we have around 13 programs in my faculty. And I conducted a series of workshops with our program chair and tried to identify their needs in terms of immersive technology. So we did a Google survey and also interview with them through the workshops. So these were the questions that we asked them. What are your program's immersive technology needs? What are your program's plans and initiatives on developing and integrating AR or VR in teaching, research, and public service? And if they are currently developing or using augmented or virtual reality in these functions in their programs, and how can we, our office, the Dean's Office, can assist them in the integration of immersive technology in their programs? So they identified, based on our workshop, at least one interactive or immersive video, for that matter, at the very least, for each FMDS program or courses. So we were targeting this year for that to happen. So I'm looking at Bobby if he will help us. So these multimedia components will also be used later to develop virtual modes of learning. So one of the main program that actually signified their interest is the Diploma in and Master of Social Work program. So they expressed the need to develop an immersive field instruction laboratory. And this will be used in the absence of an actual agency or actual community, as well as the conduct of counseling and community organizing, aside from using the usual video conferencing solutions such as Google Meet and Zoom. So I think this year we will be focusing on this particular need. So I'm looking again at Bobby to help us out. And another two programs that signify their interest are health programs. So these are the Diploma and Master of International Health and the Master of Arts in Nursing program. So, but there's a plan to collaborate on how to optimize and maximize the use of immersive technology in their courses. We actually had one in the past, but it did not prosper much, but I think that's something that we need to revisit. So this will be in collaboration with an association which they had identified, and this is the Gerontology Nurses Association of the Philippines. So this will be primarily focusing on the aging population. So I actually do not know. As you have said, your parents are in the Stone Age, so I don't know if the elder people would be able to use this augmented reality. But these are actually needs that the program chairs had identified themselves. Okay, so I actually requested our faculty members and research assistants to attend the workshops conducted by Eric, because some of them were asking how will they be able to apply this particular technology in their courses. So it was actually a good opportunity because some of the program chairs are now expressing interest, and they have discussed this with Bobby, especially on public management. So this is what we'll be doing in the next year or so. So of course, collaborate with, so this is actually CIOP, but of course, ICTADO will also be involved, and the Multimedia Center, and identification of topic for each course or program where immersive learning can be implemented. So this is actually now the moving forward. And of course, orientation to AR, VR among faculty and staff for better appreciation of this particular technology. And just to conclude, we are taking our initial steps in exploring the possibilities of using this immersive technology in our courses. And given that, based on our conversations with them, they show positive attitude towards immersive learning. And this is actually just a beginning of how we will be exploring the use of immersive technology in our programs, specifically in programs that have expressed their need for this particular technology. And that's it, I think. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Hello. Yeah. Hello, good evening. My name is Margaret Hermine Suarez, and for today, I think I'm the last speaker, so I will be very succinct and concise. And then my paper, this is an initial paper, and it's titled Possibilities of Use of Immersive Technologies in DevCom 263 course. So currently, my co-author is Dr. Joanne Serrano. And I'm the tutor for this course, and I have been a tutor since, I think, 2 years ago. And just a disclaimer, I am in no way an expert in immersive technologies. My background is development communications. So I was introduced to immersive technologies last year by Bobby, who is the champion of immersive technologies in UPOU. And also, I was introduced by immersive technologies by our consultant, Professor Eric. So last year, the Commission on Higher Education of the Philippines announced that Philippine universities and colleges will not return exclusively to traditional face-to-face classes. And the universities will mix and match flexible learning methods, which is appropriate to their situation. And they will continue investing and moving ahead using online platforms. So UP has adopted a similar direction in anticipation with other disruptions that may necessitate future-proofing the university. So a very real concern is the choice of pedagogy and for online laboratories or hands-on courses, particularly at the general education level. So the best technological option to address the concern is pedagogy via virtual reality or immersive technologies. So it feels like I'm talking about virtual reality when I'm in front of all the practitioners for immersive technology. So I will just run through these entries. Virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality and extended reality have been identified as key building digital competitiveness in education. So employing this class of technologies on education is known as immersive learning. So the process of learning with the use of simulated or artificial environments. So these environments enable learners to completely get immersed in learning by stimulated experience within the actual but the virtual learning environment. So as mentioned by Dr. Joanne Serrano a while ago, so one of the missions of the UP Open University is to provide Filipinos everywhere wider access to quality education through innovative methods. And I consider the use of immersive technology as one of those innovative methods. So I think we are doing our mission as a university. So we are also mandated by a law in the Philippines. It's called the Open and Distance Law to contribute towards the upgrading of the quality of educational system in our country. So this is by developing innovative instructional technologies and strategies and sharing this with other colleges and universities, specifically in our country. So as a pioneer, having pioneered ODEL, or Open and Distance e-learning in the Philippines, and also in Southeast Asia, if I may say, the University of the Philippines Open University is in the best position to explore the pedagogical applications of immersive technology in our country, especially in the UP system and other constituent universities. So this was also mentioned a while ago. UPOU is currently proposing the establishment of the Center for Immersive Learning and Open Pedagogies. This will be a project, this will be under the purview of Dr. Roberto Figueroa, also with the help of our consultant, Professor Eric Hawkinson. So we are very thankful for your help, sir. So I will not tell you, or I will not mention the objectives of the center, because this was mentioned a while ago. It's just worth mentioning also that the UPOU CIOP initiative in moving towards teaching and learning using immersive technologies of the university. We, the researchers, Dr. Joanne and I, started to reflect on the use of said technologies specifically in our course, DevCon 263, which is the communication of scientific communication and information technologies. So, a course, what is DevCom 263? It is a course under the Master of Development Communication, which is I am a graduate of, but I'm a graduate of the UPLB CU, but this we also offer here in UPOU. This course provides an opportunity for learners to learn how to retrieve, process, and interpret and successfully communicate scientific and technological information for the utilization of scientists, educators, and other knowledge linkers, and also the general public. So among its specific objective is to equip learners with a critical and well-founded understanding of how to successfully communicate scientific and technical information, and enable the learners to appreciate the roles and functions of science communicators in the generation and organization of scientific knowledge, and making scientific and technical information better understood by the stakeholders, and through information of stakeholders of information through the use of ICTs. So generally, the objectives of the study is to, this is an exploratory study, which is to determine the possibilities of how immersive technologies will help supplement the teaching and learning of DevCom 263, and to specifically seek and identify topics in DevCom 263 for immersive technology, and to understand the use of immersive technology in science communication. So the scope of the study, the exploratory study, is all the data and information used is from the first semester, or just recently the first semester of this school year. So the data analysis that will be employed, or that was employed, is autoethnography, because it's a lived experience of both the FAC, which is Dr. Joanne Serrano, and I, the tutor of the course, and the analysis of naturally occurring data. So whatever information that we got from the course, the course in my portal, we use that also. So the study had 3 components. The first one is the use of immersive technology in producing virtual OERs. So the design, development, and production of virtual OERs were discussed in actually the course has 10 modules, but the design of virtual OERs were broadly discussed from modules 3 to 10. So I will not enumerate them. It's modules 3 to 10, as you can see here. And then, so under these components, the students were made, one of the requirements of the students was to make a final report, or it's the final requirement of the course. The students were required to co-create knowledge products in the form of student-created OERs. So OERs are open education resources. So these may be, they can produce podcasts, videos, or exhibits, which are virtual exhibits. So These student-created OERs were required to be topics related to the course, but that at the same time, these topics can be applied in the real-life situations. Most of our students in DevCom 263 are practitioners of DevCom, so they are employed or they work in development assistance programs like big agencies like UNESCO, other development assistant programs like that. So at the same time, the topics that can be applied in the real life situations, I've mentioned that. These should also be useful to others, such as their classes, their training, in science communication practices, and also advocacy work. So last year, the topics that we identified for producing OERs were 7, and these are concentrated more on communicating climate crisis. So we asked them to produce OERs under these topics. So what journal article as a venue for disseminating scientific information on climate crisis, and how would scientific conferences as a venue for disseminating scientific information on climate crisis. So these are just mentioning 2 of the 7 topics that were produced. So the second component is the use of immersive technologies in collaborative learning activities. So in developing this final requirement, the students were asked or were expected to collaborate and do group activities. So an example of which is the collaborative project planning for virtual reports. These group meetings were initially scheduled to plan, develop, and document their projects. And the FIC and I encouraged collaboration and explore the use of various tools and strategies and channels of communication that the students were willing to utilize and were comfortable with. So this is one of the samples. I think they also used their course, our My Portal course room for this. So the last component is for our DevCom 263 students to be exposed on immersive technologies. So by doing this, we can schedule webinars on how to use immersive technologies, which can open their minds on its benefits. So just to mention a few of the benefits of immersive technologies are to improve engagement, enhanced learning experience, greater accessibility, and improved collaboration. So webinars on immersive technologies can be a valuable opportunity for students to learn about the latest technologies and trends in their fields. And the researchers, or us, Dr. Joanne and I, may tap the expertise of the different units or offices from UPOU in transitioning our online or traditional online courses to immersive learning courses. So we can tap MC, or the Multimedia Center, Office of Public Affairs, and our future fingers crossed, Center for Immersive and Open Pedagogies. So to conclude, the use of immersive technologies in online learning has certainly the potential to create a more engaging, interactive, and effective learning experience for students. But however, it is important to consider specific needs and goals of the learners. And of course, we have to consider the course content and to use immersive technologies in a way that is appropriate and effective for the in the learning context. So these are my references. And with that, thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our first session of the first annual World Learning Lab Symposium. We have a second session tomorrow I'd like to tell you about. Before that, I would like to give a warm thanks to all of our participants, all of our speakers, all of our presenters, all of our collaborators, and our watchers online, both now and into the future. Just to see if I can reflect very briefly about what we've seen today is really what I've been thinking about around the idea of immersive technology and around what's happening in a lot of institutions all over the world. The depth and breadth of the presentations we saw today show that the blending of digital and real as we get these new emerging technologies and how they get dispersed among different institutions around the world is very varying. Usually, or in the past, we've seen a lot of work in engineering and how this stuff is made and created and developed. But I believe what you've seen today is very much ahead of the curve as far as understanding its application, its development, and its affordance for learners, both in physical spaces. We saw some physical spaces today, taking information in physically made physical rooms and spaces and augmenting them with digital data, but also virtual worlds and understanding how that can be applicable to different ways and to different students. And all of that goes very much in the mission of the World Learning Labs initiative and our symposium here today, which is to kind of combine all of these efforts in how these things are being laid forth for educators, students, and institutions around the world with ideas of trying to going, not necessarily against, but giving a different voice to the dogma that we often hear in commercial spaces around these ideas, projects, and developments. It's very wonderful to see, and thanks again to all of our wonderful presenters. We hope to continue this again next year. But before we do, I would like to remind everyone that we have a whole other session for us tomorrow. We're going to be continuing our discussions here at the Kyoto University of Foreign Studies. But tomorrow, we're going to be showing you our pre-recorded sessions from around the world. We have talks from all over, including Europe, some more talks from the Philippines, and here in Japan, and other places around the world, talking about things like how do we integrate immersive technologies in online learning, for example, trying to develop modules for popular systems like Moodle, trying to use these spaces to have students be more creative in the arts and humanities. And there are also some other case studies that we're going to see tomorrow, trying to apply these to different types of fields and educational contexts. So we hope you can join us tomorrow here on the live stream to help us continue the discussion, and also later on to see the publications and research that come out of these talks later on. All right, for now, that concludes our session 1 of the World Learning Lab Symposium. Thank you very much.